All right, good evening, guys. Good afternoon on the West Coast. Good evening on the East Coast. I am here with Leo Pedri, and we're going to do something fun tonight because, first of all, Leo, thank you for being with us. I appreciate it on behalf of the group.
Oh, thank you.
And what's really cool is, we talk a lot about what marriage transformation looks like, the theory, the philosophy, and there's a lot of deep understanding of what it is and what it is not. But I think the most fun is to actually take a real guy, one of my students, who are actually implementing it in their lives, going through the process of a marriage transformation, and actually just pull back the curtain and hear from you. So um, let's just get started. A little bit about yourself, your background leading up to, the point where you felt you got to do something to turn around your marriage. What can you share with us?
Um, so yeah, I was me and my wife. We've been together for 27 years. Been married almost 23, and we
27 years.
got
So
into.
how old were you when you met?
I was just turned 18, and she was 16. We were high school sweethearts.
Oh wow.
So yeah, I'd taken her to her prom and all the stuff, and um, so we have three daughters, and life kind of happened, and we started to disconnect, and I really didn't realize how bad the disconnect was, and um, in December, I found out she was having an affair with a coworker, and then we separated, and she moved out on let's see, that'd be March, last week of February, March. So it's been about a month and a half, and we've been co-parenting, and I was doing like every guy does, going and watching YouTube videos, and like I told you before, there was no clear path. Like, everything I was doing was not working,
What
and
were you What were
that
you
was,
doing? Let's talk about that a little bit. What were you doing?
um,
Just because
you know, I
they're just again they're probably guys watching this live right now, and there'll be a bunch of guys watching the recording.
yeah.
And if you can just share a little bit about what you were doing, and guys watching this, if you can comment, do you relate to this? Are you guys doing the same thing with the best intentions? Leo, if you can just
Yeah,
share
I
a bit.
was. Honestly, I was being needy. I was watching the videos, but I wasn't following. Like, there's all the 30-day no contact, and when you have kids, that's not going to work. And um, and then I would get into where we're like, I felt like she was slipping away, so I needed to send her good night, good morning, and trying to, basically I was pushing her away. And like each person has their own philosophies, but when you're trying to like come up with a clear path, it's like you're all over the place. And I needed to rein that in, and like I said, nothing was working, and I felt like she was slipping away further and further. And so that's when I came across your Facebook group.
And what was the first impression you had when you were going through like the free training that we have in the Facebook group?
I just felt like it was something that, like I said, a clear path. Like at least I was doing something that was, not just like drawing straws, hoping some would work. Like, actually getting like a roadmap, like to get from point A to point B effectively. So,
But could you go back? What you're saying now is also based on the fact that we're working together. Can you go back in time a little bit and speak to the Leo who was like 6 weeks ago, who just came into the Facebook group, fresh, 27 years, about to lose his wife, and what was it that you saw then that you felt, okay, this may work for you? Because I'm the first guy to say my philosophy doesn't work for everybody, right? If it works for you, it's fantastic. It's very powerful, but a lot of guys don't align with it. So what I'm curious is, and I don't think I've ever asked this question to you in the way I'm asking right now, and I'm doing it so that to help the guys who are watching this understand, what was it that you saw in our Facebook group over here, our small Own Your Marriage Facebook group, where you're like, okay, this thing might work for me.
well, I mean, the first thing for me was, I think like the first or second day I was on the site, I posted something, and your wife responded like immediately, and it's like, whoa, like the other ones you're just kind of like thrown into the, you're listening, whatever. And it was, so I felt like it was something that, like, hey man, these people, care. And, and like I said, I was, I honestly don't know. I was at a point where, I was frustrated, and, I felt like, hey, this might be the right fit for me. And, like I said, I was at my, like, basically wit's end. I was frustrated, and, had a lot of resentment. And so, yeah, I mean, not one thing, it was just kind of a collection of things, I think, that kind of just, I felt like it might be a right fit.
Right, and the truth is, you don't really know yet at that point, is it going to be a good fit or not. And I would encourage guys who are fresh to our group to go to the guide section, check out a couple of basic trainings, marriage trap, marriage cancer, aim before you fire. You want to go through some basic trainings, because that will tell you if you're in the right place or not. Because a lot of guys, Leo, as you know, they just want to fix the marriage. They're not looking to get to the root of, like, why the marriage got to that point. And let's talk about that a little bit. One of the things we spoke about, I think it was in our second conversation, I said, I think it's really important for your particular situation to first go through like a marriage foundation before a marriage transformation. Do you recall that?
Right? Yes.
And so can you talk a little bit about, if you can go back to the beginning, like when we started working together like 3.5 weeks ago, when you just started, the first initial 2 weeks of building a marriage foundation, can you describe, like, what were the first benefits you got from it? What happened? Like, what was the first aha moment you had as a result of going through that?
I had to come to terms with my role that I played in the, and, blame goes both ways, but when you start digging deep to see what you actually, what role you played, that was the aha moment for me. And, like I said, and then, I had the whole, like, a lot of guilt, and, but I had to work through that. And once you can, identify your role and fix yourself, then, it helps this process along a lot better.
What was the best part of, I'm sorry, go on.
Oh, I mean, the best part for me was, I knew in my mind that I probably played a role, and, but actually diving into, more specifics of where I went wrong, it's really eye opening. And it's helped me look at the whole relationship and how my wife's feeling. It's really opened my eyes. She's she's hurting. I always thought maybe it was and I took a lot of blame, like, after I started, and that's the first thing, is admitting the role you played. I mean,
yeah,
for me it was and it was it was tough. And
oh, it's not easy at all. I mean, when I did it in my marriage, quite a few years ago, it was the decision to decide I'm going to take responsibility, and then to actually go ahead and take responsibility, are two different experiences completely, as you know.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah. And, I questioned myself a lot along the way, like, did I play that big of a role? And it was like it was a fight with myself. And then when you finally come to that realization, and, the guilt you're feeling, and, there's a lot of emotions that go into that. And I think once you can admit to yourself, the role you played, it makes the other parts a lot easier to cope with.
Right. And the thing is that people have a theory. A lot of guys come with the attitude of, like, hey, yeah, I played a role. But when you don't have the specifics of exactly, on a granular, detailed level, this, what you said, what you did, very nuanced situations, it's your decision to say, yeah, I played a role, but you can't actually do make any changes if you don't truly understand that. I think it's important for guys to understand that's what you've done essentially in the first 2 weeks, is to build like a solid foundation where you can actually see, okay, this is when I did this, Amy doesn't feel my love. When I do this, she feels this. When I do this, she believes this about me, even though it's not true.
Exactly. And the other part, and you've helped me with that also, is the whole, you want instant results. Like as a man, you think, oh, you do this, and then, but it's not like that. I've had to really take a step back and realize it took a long time for this marriage to get to where we're at, and it's not going to be just a overnight, and so that goes back to now I realize the stuff I was doing, and it's a whole process, and so it's been very eye-opening for me as a man and as a husband. So yeah, it's definitely it's been real. So
yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that. And there was one thing that slipped my mind as you were talking, and it's going to come back to me if it's really important. But there was an interesting point on something that you said. But meanwhile, can you guys watching this live, can you comment? How many of you relate to this? Where you have a sense that, hey, I know I should be doing something different, but I don't know what it is, right? Like how many guys have that? A lot of guys actually make that decision, but they stay stuck in that spot of I know I'm doing something wrong, but they're sort of afraid to actually come face to face with the exact things, And the reason why, Leo, I think I want to hear your thoughts about it, is because they feel, I've done so much good for my marriage. I've tried so hard. I really mean well. I don't want nobody telling me those little things that I've done wrong. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I was in this. That was me. It's I've done this and this and this, and and everything. Like I said before, everything I tried seemed to push her away more. So yeah, yeah, I'm not sure. I kind of lost my train of thought there.
No, that's not a problem. I want to pick up on another thing you said. You have the realization where, hey, we didn't get here overnight. A lot of guys come and they want to solve. They say, hey, I'm working on my marriage for a couple of days or a couple of weeks. I should get results, right? And first of all, you've been married for 27 years, right? The problem didn't happen a year ago when you discovered the affair. That's just when it became official that there was a problem. And as you actually indicated, we've been disconnected for a while, and you're sort of aware of it. You're just not sure how it's happening or what's causing it or how to fix it. But it doesn't get fixed overnight either. And I want to say an interesting thing. We've had guys who come into the program the same time you're in, and there was one specific guy who had a quicker breakthrough in his marriage, a much quicker breakthrough. And I can tell you from experience, most of the times guys have a quicker breakthrough. There's much more danger in that. Can you guess why, Leo?
Well, yeah, because you haven't dealt with. You're growing, but you haven't got to a place where you've actually, you have the tools and the mindset to actually deal with it. It gets overwhelming. And, that's the thing with me too. I would tell you things that were going on, and to me, they seem like game changers, but, I had to take a step back and say, hey, it's progressing a little, but don't get yourself just take it slow. And, that was my biggest, I had a ton of anxiety because anytime, she would give me a hug, and then I would dig into what did that hug mean? Was it different than the last one? And so those little things, but you got to just kind of take a step back and take it as a win, but don't read too far into it, and don't try and, get to the finish line the quickest. Make sure you're ready to deal with, because you want your marriage to be better. You just don't want it to be, if Amy called me today and said she wanted to move home, I probably wouldn't do it right now because I don't think I would be ready for that. Just as a husband
That's
and
a
a person.
loaded statement. Most guys listening to you will be like, "What the hell? If my wife called me and wants to move in right now," I would say, "Of course." And like, it takes so much to get to the point of understanding. No, when you want a long-term happy marriage without those crazy ups and downs, I mean, like sharp ups and downs, you do have to have all the tools, and you need. And one of the most important things that guys need is the ability to talk about the past. Women love to talk about the past. Guys hate to talk about the past. They absolutely
Exactly.
hate it. And if you don't know
Mm.
that skill of how to navigate that conversation, you're gonna have real problems. So even if you have a breakthrough and your wife comes, opens up to you and you're spending time with your wife, and this happened recently with one of the guys in the program. Like, I'm talking within 4 days, and it's happened many times in the past. But I'm talking about the most current one. What happens is the victory, so to speak, the breakthrough in the marriage is actually a premature one. It's a reflection of a vulnerability on her side and maybe a little bit of hope. But the guy doesn't have the full skill set of how to navigate critical conversations, how to talk about the past, how to heal the past. Women, once they feel comfortable, are going to start talking about the past. And you got to be ready for that, or else you're going to get screwed. So, I applaud your attitude of like recognizing this is a long-term game, a long-term game. And I'm going to ask you, this just popped into my head, a shocking question. Okay,
Yeah.
but you don't have to answer it. But let's say, and this is for the purpose of really understanding, what personal transformation looks like when a guy builds this skill set. We've had guys who've come into AMFT, which is Amazing Marriage Fast Track for the guys who are new. AMFT is Amazing Marriage Fast Track, who have come here and they weren't even trying to save their marriage. They were done with it. They just wanted to know, what do I need to know so I never get into this mess in the future? So I want to ask you a blunt question, and I've never asked you this question. Let's say nothing works. Complete the program, and you don't get the result you wanted from Amy. You don't get that type of connection that you wanted to get, that type of breakthrough, that type of, she's currently, in an affair, right? It's a process. Let's say you never get it. You applied for a year or two, and you'd never recapture her heart, which is extremely unlikely, by the way, because guys who do this for a year or two could just about break through any type of marriage cancer. But let's say you don't. What would you have gained from the experience itself, regardless of what happens to your marriage?
For me personally, I mean, my relationship with my kids is better, which is, first a top priority for me. But
When you say
going
better,
forward,
when you say better, what can you describe a little bit? What do you mean by that?
I've become digging back on, like you said in the first part of the program, like who I am as a man, a father, and a husband. I saw where I was doing things wrong as the father, and so I did a lot of digging on that, and I have, like I said, a 20-year-old and two teenage daughters, which is a difficult age, and so I'm really trying to step up as a dad, and and that's been beneficial for them and me. As far as moving on, I mean, I think that I'd have the tools to be successful in any relationship. I'd have a better understanding of, the role I would need to play to, and, like I've contemplated that, like, you have those doubts, like, are you ever going to be good enough? And do you want to, get your heart broken and all, and so, that's a tough one, but I think I would be, I'd have the tools, to, be successful in a relationship, just as as a man.
I have no doubt about that either. And it's important to build that now, because in order to recapture your wife's heart, Amy's heart, you need to have a good understanding of what makes marriage work in a way that you're so confident that the confidence flows from a logical understanding, and because you're confident that that you will be able, if necessary, right? Hopefully we don't get to that point, but if necessary, you will be able to attract and keep a loving, passionate relationship long term. And that actually helps fix the current marriage because you show up with a much greater level of confidence as opposed to the desperation, which is one of the things a lot of guys talk about. They're aware of, like, hey, I'm being desperate. This is not good. I need confidence. But how do I have confidence if I don't know what the hell I'm doing? Right? You can't just build confidence out of the blue and say, I'm going to make believe I'm confident. Your confidence has to flow from what you're doing, the work you're doing right now, which is a logical understanding of where you went wrong, what you can do differently, how to navigate, how to talk, how to interpret, what to do, what not to do, what to say, what not to say, how to pick up when you're doing something which is undermining all the rest of your effort. When you get that, okay, confidence flows logically. And I'm explaining it to guys because you may not even be aware of all these things happening behind the scenes, so to speak, in your head, because you're sort of going through it. So I'm sort of like a bird's eye view, explaining to guys what they're saying. Like the confidence is coming from an actual logical, intelligent strategy. What do you look forward to in terms of your own personal development, and what do you look forward to in terms of your marriage progression?
For me, I look forward to continuing to grow as a person, as a man, and as a father. And that all leads into, growing, because, I wouldn't be doing this if I wouldn't be putting in this. I would be putting in the effort, but, my end game is to have a happy marriage with my wife. So I that's what keeps me motivated. And like I said, you've had to slow me down because I'm pretty intense, not intense, but I just, one
of the most intense guys I worked with, or quickest, I should say, one of the quickest.
Yeah, well, exactly. But, but then that's something I'm dealing with is, taking the time, you can rush through it all and get it done, but, retaining the information and actually understanding it, and so that's what I've done, and you slowed me down, and that's helped me a lot. It's all about time.
It's about timing. It's like sort of like if you have a recipe for how to build a cake, how to make a cake, you could have all the ingredients. It's still going to take a certain amount of time for the recipe to bake. And sometimes it's important, not just for you to understand it, but for guys watching this, it's important to not just have all the skills of, okay, how do I listen? How do I appreciate? How do I talk? How do I interpret? It's important not just to have the whole breadth of it, but to go deep and to get sometimes the depth of each skill. And sometimes you got to do that a bit slow. And what are the encouraging signs you've seen in any changes in the interaction between you and Amy that have assured you're on the right path? You hinted to some of them before. Is there anything else?
Like I said, it's still early. I do see some signs, like, she had stopped wearing her rings, and we went to a dinner to say bye to my daughter, and she had her ring back on, which was kind of a weird thing.
Okay.
And then that night she gave me a hug and told me that she loved me, which was the first time she said she loved me, and since she moved out.
Which is how long? Which is since when? Again,
last week of February, first week of March. Yeah.
So it's the first time she told you she loved you in like 6 weeks.
Exactly. But then, I saw her again yesterday, and she didn't have the rings on. But, you can't let that kind of stuff get you down. You just got to
It's a process. It is a process, and understanding it's a process and embracing the process is really critical.
And 3 weeks ago, that would have put me into a tailspin, she had a ring on and she took it off again. And, you kind of learn to, deal with that stuff, and, patience and time. And so, and that's what I'm learning and dealing with. So,
well, I'm glad that you took the time to share with guys. I have a lot of guys who come in and they're like, they don't feel comfortable just talking to a bunch of guys online, and they're just the whole thing is personal. But you got to also remember that when you came in, right, what gave you hope was also seeing other guys who are going through their personal stuff. So that's why we have a group of only men. The only woman over here is my wife, and she's a safe person. And I look forward to, helping you step by step as you continue to implement your personal and your marriage transformation. And it really comes down to it's not just a matter of patience, as you've indicated, is definitely an ingredient, but sometimes the ability to have patience, or I should say very oftentimes, the ability to have patience depends on actually understanding what's going on behind the scenes in your marriage. Right? If you don't understand what's going on behind you, if you don't understand the process of how your wife creates her opinions, how she forms her decisions, how to interact with her in a way that you influence her, not manipulate, but positively influence her in a healthy way, then it's hard to have patience, because you can't just be patient. You can have a lot of patience, but if you want to see a sunset and you're patiently walking towards the East Coast facing east, you're not going to see a sunset. You can be very patient. It's just not going to happen. So anyway, for guys who want to explore how to do that, the actual process, the strategy that Leo's going through, like I said, just comment, explore, and we'll take it from there. And again, Leo, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time, and I look forward to doing another interview with you further down the process, so people can say, "Hey, where's Leo up to right now?" And
for sure.
we'll take it from there. All right, my friend.
All
right. God bless.
I appreciate it.
All right. Take care. Thank you.
You too.
All the best.